It's the Market Pulse podcast, where you can discover each week how to unlock the power within you to achieve success and personal growth. Here is your host, Matthew Pohl.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Market Pulse podcast. I'm Matthew Pohl, your host, and I'm excited to bring to you the latest in market news that I would say would highly impact your investments and financial decisions going into the future. And we have a lot to cover, including some advancements in AI, gas prices, and some of the news that, frankly, I think will impact your trading. So let's go ahead and jump right in.
Breaking news.
What you're about to see may disturb.
Snooze, you lose.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with gas prices. The concern for the average American right now when they go to the pump is, how can I continue to afford the increase in current gas prices? And we're heading into some of the peak consumption months for gasoline, which typically drives gasoline prices going up. And we're just heading into Memorial Day weekend, which often also spikes gas prices. And so the Biden administration is feeling some pressure, especially with this being an election year, to try to create some easing on the demand for gas prices by releasing some of our oil reserves. And so let me get you some of the details, whether I think it's actually going to make a difference or not, and if you're trading oil, an opportunity that might be presenting itself at this moment. So let's go ahead and jump in on this. So just to kind of give you some overview of what's going on, the current Biden administration just announced that they're going to release 1 million barrels of oil to reduce gasoline prices for the summer, driving during this high peak season. However, this amount is actually quite minimal. I think this is more of a clickbait, like, hey, look at us, we're trying to help, when really it's so small, the impact is going to be completely, in my opinion, unnoticeable compared to the overall demand that we need. And it's unlikely to have any significant change in the actual drop in gas prices. This is more of a genuine flex, like a genuflex by the administration, than actually helping the average day American. And so I would be watching not what the administration says, but just every week you go to the gas pump, look at the price and see if this makes a difference. So critics are arguing that this strategic petroleum reserve should be used for real emergencies also, and not for these political gains, not this like trying to get reelected and get some votes or some additional head nods from potential middle independent thinkers that may be going to the right or to the left. So here are some of the key points. Things that I would be considering. So the administration just came out and said, we're going to release 1 million barrels, which sounds like a whole lot. But when you look at the overall consumption in this country, it's like a drop in the bucket. Where gasoline prices this year have already risen 15% since the start of the year, with national averages varying significantly, obviously state by state because of certain taxes. Now, we're heading into peak season, which we call the summer driving season. And the increased demand for gasoline during summer obviously has impact on supply and demand, which impacts the overall cost of fuel historically. So if you looked at a historical chart, typically summer months, starting right around Memorial weekend, gas prices typically go up. So if you're already feeling the pain of gas prices, I would expect them to go even higher going into the next couple months, which summer is just starting for most of us. Now, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, is the reserve that the country holds for emergency purposes. And the amount of barrels that the current petroleum reserve has is around 367 million barrels. So just to help give you some perspective, we're releasing 1 million of 367 million. And this reserve is already down significantly. In fact, let me show you this chart. oil prices are significantly high and oil reserves are significantly low because this administration has kind of an anti-petroleum mentality, and it's actually hurt our ability. In fact, we haven't had reserves this low since about 1983, which was the year that I was born. So we are like heading into all-time record low reserves, which puts our country in a really high risk position just in case there is some type of emergency. And we've been very slow to release or to add to those reserves since this administration. So there has been a direct correlation with this administration and petroleum reserves, which is putting us at, I would say, a national risk. Now, this chart came from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, which shows clear back to the 1980s, we were at about 250, and this is thousands of barrels. So this is millions and millions of barrels. You got to add 3 zeros to this 250, right? So you add 3 zeros, that gives you the amount that we have. Now, you go into the 2000s, and we're almost at 750, almost 3 times the amount in reserves. And then what happened? COVID hit. This administration said, we hate petroleum. We're cutting off gas pipelines. We're ending any type of petroleum type incentives. We're incentivizing all these green deals, which frankly, I'm not saying that it's bad, and I'm a huge advocate of green energy and solar energy, but it's made the amount of money we've spent has put such a small drop in the bucket in terms of shifting our energy dependency on oil that frankly, we still need to have a strong focus on our oil reserves. And if we're not hyper-focused on this, we are going to lose sight of the dollar being kind of the backing behind this and the average day American really suffering when it comes to oil prices in this country. Like, gone are the days where we would go look at Europe and we would look at foreign nations and go, oh, only they pay twice or 3 times as much as us for gas. Well, now we are catching up. I remember Europe, even 5-10 years ago, you'd go and look at their gas prices and it was $3-4 a gallon. Never did we think that in the U.S. we would be there. We were paying $1, $2. They were paying twice as much as us. And we were going, oh, no. Our nation's strong. The oil is pegged to the dollar. That's what keeps oil cheap for us. And a lot of people don't understand that correlation. But never is it going to get that high. Well, we're losing that. This current administration has flexed that we are not interested in having the dollar pegged to oil. 2, it's costing the average day American every day that they go to the pump. And 3, there are multiple network effects around oil. If oil prices go up, guess what else goes up? Anything oil is used that you need to buy over the counter. So this is why we're having inflation still, is because oil prices, energy costs, aren't actually factored in to the overall CPI and PPI indexes, which is crazy. When we look at inflation, we actually don't calculate in energy costs for some reason. We also don't calculate in home costs, which is bizarre. We'll calculate in the cost of eggs. We'll calculate in what a loaf of bread costs, a gallon of milk. But for some reason, we don't factor in energy costs and home prices, which is bizarre. So inflation is still going up, even with energy costs not included. However, when energy costs go up, the cost to manufacture and produce goods and services naturally has to go up also, because the cost to run a tractor to get your corn, the cost to run a machine to package your goods still requires the same amount of oil to make that product. And unfortunately, the overall impact of that is manufacturers, they have to start hiking their prices because the cost of energy has just gone up. And so these are the natural, how would you say this? These are the natural byproducts, the natural effects when you have energy costs go up as high as they have. And let me show you this other chart also. I think you guys would be interested to see this. This gives you an idea per state how much gas prices cost. And this might make you sick dependent on where you live. You can clearly see this almost looks like the colors are reversed in terms of Republican and Democratic states. It's almost like this is a political map, but the colors are upside down, right? Red is typically Republican, blue is typically Democrat. And I'm typically pretty in the center, and I'm pretty libertarian, so I don't really have a bias one way or the other. I just want what's best for the country, and I will vote Democrat or Republican if the policies that they're putting in place make sense. And frankly, the Biden administration around petroleum is making awful decisions. And what we're doing globally around those decisions also is affecting energy costs. But check this out. California, Nevada, Arizona, pretty much all the western states, you're paying at the pump anywhere between $5 and $3.77. The states that have the lowest gas prices are in white, and the blue or medium, like the mid-level, and then blue states like New Mexico, Texas, your southern states, for whatever reason, are the lowest. And so dependent on the state you live in, also, you may be paying twice as much in fuel cost. Why? Because you live in a state that overtaxes. California, and I am a expatriate, you could say, of California. California's taxes are so high on fuel that they're paying almost twice as much as we are here in Utah. And I'm not even in one of the highest states. Like if I lived in Texas, there would definitely be a gap. And so this affects cost of living. This affects how you spend your leisure time. And frankly speaking, everyone's like, well, let's go electric, let's go electric. Well, did you know that a large percentage of your electricity is created off of natural gas, which is a petroleum product? People are living in this illusion that even green energy doesn't come from petroleum. And so this weird $1 million barrel release from our reserves is clearly a genflex. It's like this is to look good as an administration. This is a political play. This is actually not designed to help you in any way, shape, or form. Because frankly speaking, if you looked at the reserves chart, 1 million barrels is a drop in the bucket. It's not enough that's actually going to change the weight in supply and demand. And so, what's the play in the market? Well, in fact, here's the article, by the way. Biden to release 1 million barrels of gasoline to reduce prices at the pump ahead of 4th of July, and Memorial Day weekend. But here's the play. If you're seeing futures and options on oil starting to short, if you see that people are actually reacting to this, like prices are actually going to drop, I would think again. You buy the rumors, you sell the news. The news is this is supposed to help reduce prices. Well, guess what? It's too late. So if you're in an oil position that's long, if you're in a position that's short on oil, the news is already saying like this is coming. And frankly, the old saying of buy the news, sell the rumors, or buy the rumors, sell the news, right? Like this idea is we're too late. So if you think there's a trade to short oil, it's too late. If you're in a short position, now may be the time to exit. Obviously, I'm not giving any trade advice. I'm just giving you the news, and I'm just giving you the concepts and a lot of the psychology around trading in the markets. And this, my friends, is a genflex from the administration. It is very unlikely that this will actually impact prices at the pump. So hold me to it. Watch gas prices over the next 2 months. My guess is we will not see a single drop in prices over the next month. In fact, we will likely see higher prices over the next couple months because the demand will be much greater than anything 1 million gallons of oil given by this administration is going to help the public. It's just ridiculous. It's not enough. And the administration would have gave way more, but they also know that they have way too little in reserves to give more. They knew that they would get the market and experts would slap their wrists for saying, why are you tapping into our national reserves for a non-emergency spend? And so they did just enough that they would make the news. They also didn't do too much that it would actually affect the experts saying, hey, you need to leave the reserves alone. So frankly, this is a nothing burger. If you saw this, this is not going to help. But guys, gas prices suck right now. And frankly speaking, there's nothing that a sitting president can do before elections to make a big difference in oil prices in the upcoming months. So I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry to bring you the news, uncandid, unhinged, and if you're in any type of oil positions, I hope that this information helps. All right, so let's move to our next piece on this.
Rock, Paper, Scissors, Lizard, Spock was created by internet pioneer Sam Cass as an improvement on the classic game Rock, Paper, Scissors. All hail Sam Cass. Hail.
What the nerds are up to.
All right, so I've got to talk to you guys about the latest in tech. And the last segment was kind of our snooze, you lose segment. This is kind of like what the nerds are up to. But AI is taking over. AI is moving so fast that things that used to cost money are now free, and we're kind of going through these really fast upgrade cycles because AI is assisting the next development in AI. And I can't not share what just came out with OpenAI's latest release, ChatGPT 4.0. Not 4.0, not 4.0, 4.0. And 4.0, the O actually stands for Omni. And the reason they use the word Omni is to represent all media. So 4.0, not 4.0, 4 Omni is an all-inclusive AI that has 3 main components, not just text to response. It also now can do audio, so listening and speaking, and it also can do visual, all at the same time, all at once, not just separately, not through different apps, all at once. And it has integrated apps where you can download these on your computer and use them to visually analyze things that are just they're just sitting and user facing. You can use audio to listen to Zoom calls. You can use the audio feature to go through past calls or past videos you created, or maybe YouTube videos that you're watching and you're trying to get summaries of. You can use it to interact. You can use it as translator. And so I'm going to answer a couple questions that I got around this that are kind of these hot topics. And then I want to show you some actual just mind-blowing examples of what 4.0 is being used for today. And it really should open your mind to some things that, like, we're going into the future of Star Trek. Like, the future is now around AI, and some of the applications are incredible. So one of the first questions I thought I'd answer is, like, what is ChatGPT 4.0 and how can I use it? Well, the old ChatGPT premium was something you had to pay for, right? It was like a $20 plus subscription. You got access. It would make visuals for you. You could download other people's GPTs, which would be used to make invitations, or I used it to sometimes scrub or get transcripts off YouTube videos, or to take news articles and give you summaries, or to look at Excel sheets and give you data and real-time advice around data pieces within certain limits and character limits. That was what ChatGPT 4 used to do as a text interface. You had to talk to it or use an API to link into it. Now 4.0 has an audio ability where you can just click it and talk to it like Siri, but like the most advanced Siri ever. And I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but I do have a very strong intuition that the new partnership with Apple is going to revolutionize Siri. And it was also just announced this week that Alexa is going to have a paid version that is tied into ChatGPT. So this idea of having these assistants, the idea of having these live, real type personal assistants that know you, they know your data, they know what you like, that your buying habits, your emails, what you do for work, to have these real assistants now that you can communicate with and get help from in real time, that time has come. It's now. And so 4.0 can, one, do audio, but the other cool feature that it does is it can do video. So it can look at an image. It can look at something that you're showing it and tell you what it is. If you're a bird watcher even, and you're like, tell me what bird this is, it will look at it and tell you the type of bird it is. If you're dealing with some type of math equation or a piece of code, it can scan it, digest it, turn it into text, run it through the LLM, and then based on it, the visual that it takes in, give you a audible response. And so this opens up so many opportunities for innovation, so many opportunities for really shortcutting a lot of innovation that was happening. And frankly, there were a ton of AI startups that were funded with tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in the last 6 months that 4.0 frankly just put to zero. So if you have any investments or were thinking about putting an investment in some type of like audio AI or some type of visual recognition AI or some type of image creation AI, stop it. Like GPT, OpenAI, the company is and has a very strong mission to be the AI source for all of those things. And frankly, this latest release has put many of those companies to zero. There's no value in any of them because you can get it for free. So then the big question is, what's the difference? Because premium still exists, and I'm a premium member on ChatGPT. So what's the difference between 4.0 or 4 Omni versus 4 or 4 Premium? Well, it's really simple, actually. It has to do with usage. So GPT 4.0 Plus users have 5 times the rate limits than free users. So you get 5, if you're starting to hit rate limits or image generations are coming in quick enough, or it's like you've texted too much, it's because you're on the free version. So if you're not someone who's using this a lot, or if you're someone who just wants to play with it and never has, you don't need to have a paid account. You can get on 4.0 for free. And then once you start using it up to a certain point, you might start hitting cap limits where you're going to need the premium, which is 5 times the rate limits as a free user, which is about 80 messages every 3 hours. Now, a lot of you are going like, holy crap, like, are people really using this that much? Yes, they are. The tech world, the world that is very progressive in terms of moving towards this new technology, they are using this all the time. And when you start to activate the audio version and you see that this personal assistant side of things, you will burn through those 80 messages very quickly. So you could see how quick it'd be to blow through 80 messages in 3 hours. So there is a difference, but the nice thing is you can start on 4.0, and if you start and never hit your cap limits, then it'll be free forever. But if you you might start to weigh like, is it worth me paying the $20 to get the extra usage? Now, let me show you some of the videos of this. So the first one I want to show you is an example, because I had some people ask me like, Matt, this all sounds great, but like, what does it actually look like on a visual side? How does this work on a video side? And I found this one where a father and his son use ChatGPT 4 to do his homework, but not to do it, to coach him, to be like a mentor without giving him the answer. So check this video out really quickly.
I'm here with my son, and I'd love you to tutor him on this math problem, but don't give him the answer. You can ask questions and nudge him in the right direction, but I really want to make sure he understands it himself. And he's here in the room, so you can talk to him directly.
Of course, I'd be happy to help. Let's look at the problem together. Can you first identify which sides of the triangle are the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse relative to angle alpha?
All right, so I'm pretty sure this is the angle alpha right here, right?
Perfect. That's correct. Now, looking at the triangle, which side do you think is the hypotenuse?
Really,
the hypotenuse?
I'm not totally sure. I think it might be this one, but I really am not sure. This side AC.
You're close. Actually, side AC is called the adjacent side to the angle alpha. The hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle and is directly opposite the right angle. Can you find which one is the hypotenuse?
Oh, okay, I see. So, I think the hypotenuse is this really long side from A to B. Would that be correct?
Exactly. Well done. Now that you've identified the hypotenuse, can you identify which side is the opposite side to angle alpha?
Okay, well, I mean, you told me earlier that this was the adjacent side, and I know that's the hypotenuse, so I'm guessing that this side, BC, is the opposite side.
Great deduction. That's absolutely correct.
So you can see how Visual 4.0 AI ran through OpenAI's GPT-4o is not just a let's see something and tell you what it is. It is using talk AI, it is using visual AI, and it's even tracking movement, like new updates in the visual. Like when he went and used his pen to highlight the area, it was watching all of that to provide the tutoring and not give him the answer to help him solve it. So this is just an example of how radical our education model could shift using AI technology and do it in a way that every student now has one-on-one mentoring and tutoring, where one of the biggest problems in the education setting is too many students and not enough teachers, right? They're overwhelmed with trying to help students individually because there's just not enough one-on-one attention. Well, gone are those days. Now we can take any student from where they are and progressively move them forward without having any student left behind, because the tutor will, one, know where you're at in terms of your education grade and level, and two, be able to immediately tutor you on what to do next without giving you the answer, and do it in a way that's trained, that has the most likely positive outcome and results. Now, I'm not downplaying teachers here. I'm not saying that they haven't played a large role in our society, but what if you could have the best math tutor on the planet tutoring your child, and that cost was free, or that cost was $20 a month? It changes everything, guys. Higher education is going to be radically changed because of this. Lower ed education, tutoring. The days of tutoring, in my opinion, have changed. Everything should be online now. They're like these huge tutoring classes and facilities and mentoring groups. Like, we don't need that anymore. Yes, we'll lose the human interaction, but you saw here how profound the tutor was inside of this video. All right. Here's another one. This one I loved because I love to travel and I love interacting with other cultures. One of the things I've always struggled with when you go to another culture, and I grew up in Southern California and I took over, 6 years of Spanish and I still can't speak it fluent. One of the things I struggle with the most is having real dialogue with people in other countries, because it's part of the connection of being human, to dialogue, to have problems solved. And language barriers are probably one of the most frustrating things that we have, especially when traveling abroad or vacationing. I want you to see how AI, specifically 4.0, this new version, acts as a real-time translator, better than Google Translate's app, all the translator apps that we've had in the past. This acts as an actual person standing there translating between two people. Check this out.
Hey, ChatGPT, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. How about you? How's your day going?
I'm doing great. So I would like you to function as a translator. I have a friend here who only speaks Italian, and I only speak English. And every time you hear English, I want you to translate it to Italian. And if you hear Italian, I want you to translate it back to English. Is that good?
Perfetto.
Mark, io mi chiedo, se le balene potessero parlare, cosa ci direbbero?
Mike, she wonders if whales could talk, what would they tell us?
They might ask, how do we solve linear equations?
Potrebbero chiederci Come risolviamo le equazioni lineari?
Sicuramente sì.
Certainly, yes.
Great. Looks
So imagine now, anytime you traveled anywhere in the world with any language, you could have a personal translator standing with you, but it was on your phone. And could even coach you on how to say things. You could even stop it and ask it, like, how do you say this in their language because of curiosity? Or, I mean, this opens the door, guys. I mean, we saw a great example of a visual representation to tutor someone in a certain subject. We saw a representation of how to be a translator. But imagine what you could do with this in your trading. Imagine you showed up with 4.0 and you just wanted to play with it and you wanted to start your trading day. And you said, ChatGPT, good morning, how are you? Give me the latest announcements I should be watching out for today before trading. And boom, there it was. It told you the announcements that already happened, told you the announcements that are coming, and then gave you some insight on things you should be maybe cautioned or warned about to avoid or to pay attention to because there's some big announcements coming. And then you're like, well, I don't understand PPI. I don't understand GDP. I don't understand this unemployment thing and how it affects the market. And then you asked it like a professional coach sitting right next to you. And you asked it, how does this impact the market? And then rather than having to pay for some coach, rather than having to pay for some expert to teach you, in a moment it just says, oh, well, unemployment, when it comes in better than expected, obviously causes the market to go up because that's a good sign that the economy is doing well. But when it comes in lower, and then it would go on and tell you the difference. What we have access to now at our fingertips that most Americans do not understand is one of the most well-rounded, well-educated assistants on the planet. That's how I would see this, and that's how I would say this. And the UI around this, the partnership with Apple, the partnership with Alexa, is going to go off the hook in the next year. So be on the fringe of this, because how this could help you in your trading, how this could help you in your investing, especially with the rest of the world following behind, could have a ton of impact. All right, so what else do we want to talk about? Let's go into...
Bulls, bears, and brain farts.
My bulls, bears, and brain farts. So we're going to kind of wrap things up. I like to go into the psychology of trading, and just to share with you really quickly, my book came out, Find Your Hidden Strengths. I just first off want to acknowledge those of you who have taken the time on Amazon to purchase my book. If it's on its way, I hope you enjoy the read. I've gotten lots of feedback that this has been a high-level, quick, shortcut way to get access to more power in your life. And power, as I define it, is velocity. It's about speed. It's not about like, we'll eventually get there, but it's like, how do I get more nitro? How do I get more fuel that's getting me there faster than my current path? Most of us are on paths that are eventually going to get us to our destination. Most of us have access to some levels of manifestation. And what I have found is people just are tired of how long it takes. And my book really has you see that you have hidden strengths that just so quickly can be tapped into, so quickly can elevate all areas of your life, that once you unlock them, it's not like you have to go read a book again. It's not like you have to go to another class. You will have access to this for the rest of your life. And so it's all about psychology. It's all about mind training. And I really hope you enjoy the book. I've got a quiz around my archetypes that's at the end of this book that comes completely free if you purchase it. Our quiz is launching this week, and I'll give you a full archetype persona. So anytime you're dealing with a problem in any 4 areas of your life, health, wealth, relationships, or spirituality, you can go to this quiz, see where your hidden strength is, and get immediate access. So I'm loving the feedback I'm getting from my readers. I love that what we've done here is elevating and helping people in their life. And I wrote this with kind of an undertone around money because, I mean, that's kind of my thing, right? This is the Market Pulse podcast. My focus around helping people has really been around money. And so you will kind of hear a tone around finance and wealth and abundance and accumulation thereof in the book. It is really geared that way. But it will help with relationships. It will help with your health. It will help with spirituality if that's something you're struggling in as well. So get your copy. You can scan the QR code here. And having said that, I wanted to just leave you guys with some thoughts that I've come up with, some quotes that I've generated myself, and give you some feedback on how this might impact or help your life. So here's the first one. Until you win, your effort will always go unnoticed, and no one will root for you until you're already there. So just get used to that. So I'll say it again. Until you win, your effort will always go unnoticed. No one roots for you until you are already there. So get used to it. Now, this is a hard concept to grab onto, especially with how a lot of our training in society has trained us to react to growth and our journey and success, where today everyone gets a participation award. Everyone is acknowledged, even if they suck. There's not a lot of value until you are on the 1% winning side. And so all of the work it takes you to get from participation award to first place, it goes completely unnoticed because society really has been doing this genuflex around, well, let's just make everyone feel accepted, make all failures and successes a wash until you do something magnificent. And so I would get used to that. Culturally, that is the new norm. And you're not going to get acknowledged for your wins until you have them. All right, here's another one. People want you to lose because it helps them justify the risks they're unwilling to take. This is why the more you win, the more they will want you to lose. Here it is again. People want you to lose because it helps them justify the risks they are unwilling to take. This is why the more you win, the more they will want you to lose. Now, as I went through life, I really started to experience this. My first cell phone store years ago, like over, gosh, has it been 2 decades? Yeah, it's almost been 2 decades. I remember when I announced I'm going to open my first store, I got a lot of people like, yeah, go for it. But as soon as I started doing well in my cell phone store, as soon as I started making a bunch of money selling phones and setting up plans, and I was an authorized retailer through T-Mobile, people really started not liking that. They really started almost wanting me to fail. And the more I expanded, and we ended up having over 30 stores over from Chicago all the way to Hilo, Hawaii, the more large we got and the more success that started compounding, the more people wanted me to lose. Why? Not because it wasn't good for me, and not because deep down I don't think people don't want the best for people, but because it brought up for them the risks that they were unwilling to take that justified their situation of being complacent, normal, and happy where they were. And so it's not that people don't love you. It's not that people don't actually want your success. It's that because they are unwilling to take those risks, they have to come up with a justification system of why they're not doing it, not why you're not. And so your winning is actually a mirror for them of winnings they could have, but they have to justify why they're not doing it. And it really has to do with their fear of taking that risk. All right, last but not least, I really like this. Let's hear how this one lands for you guys. Just because something is hard to obtain does not mean it is valuable. Just because someone has the car, the girl, the house, doesn't mean it has real value. Now, let me say this again, because this might spin your head a little bit. Just because something is hard to obtain doesn't mean it is valuable. Just because it takes a lot of work, just because you had to put a lot of time into it, maybe resources, maybe money, it doesn't mean naturally it has value. Now, you could say in the business world, just because I spend a bunch of money on a marketing campaign or an idea or an invention, it doesn't actually make it valuable, right? You got to take it to market. People have to say they actually want it. But this goes much deeper than that. The most valuable things in life are often your relationships. They're often the words you exchange with your closest people. It's often your sanity or your peace of mind. And those costs, the difficulty level to have those things, are not hard at all. And we often mix up, just because you're on the path of wanting wealth, just because you're on the path of wanting to have more abundance in your life and more freedoms in your life, it doesn't mean it has to be hard, one, to get those things, and two, those are not the means to the most valuable things in your life. You can have the most valuable assets of your life, which are going to be these meaningful relationships, these exchanges of vulnerability, having real love, having real trust with other humans. And that costs nothing. Or I should say the cost or investment can be very small. And it doesn't mean that that isn't valuable. It also doesn't mean that the thing that you're working really hard for is going to give you that. And there is often a kind of a trauma response with a lot of executives, a lot of CEOs that I've worked with and do coaching with, a lot of people who are striving for money. There's often a correlation, a trauma response even, that the thing they're really hunting for is this valuable life connection, this valuable feedback from humans, these valuable relationships. And they think the means is money. They think the means has something to do with having things. They think the means is impressing and winning and being at the 1%, when the reality is it isn't. And it's often times why executives I coach will get to some midlife crisis where they finally get everything they want. They hit their zeros in their bank account that they imagine. They have the house, the wife, the car, the boat, and they're completely miserable. And they come to me wondering why. And it's because oftentimes the things most valuable don't really cost a thing. And it's why the meek, the lowly in heart, there's a lot of Christian and even, I would say, spiritual references across all faiths that really point to this, that those things are easy to obtain and often confused. There's often a counterfeit that is posing as that when it's not real. And so my challenge to you would be to really get your head screwed on straight around this, because it can be really disappointing to take the path of wealth only to find that it didn't create value in your life, to take the path of accumulating, of getting things, to really find out how empty it is. Because really, one without the other is empty and meaningless. And so my challenge, my message to you would be, get the value that matters. Its cost is cheap. Its investment is little. And the other pieces will flow. And you'll be very clear on why you're doing those also when your heart is filled, when your mind is clear, and when you're getting the real value out of human connection and who we are as human beings. And then the money thing will be a side to that. And your vision towards it and how you go about obtaining it will be completely separate than some counterfeit idea that will leave you feeling empty at the end of the day and at the end of the rope. So just because something is hard to obtain does not mean it's valuable. All right. So again, if you're interested in my book, here it is. Find Your Hidden Strengths. You can catch it on Amazon. Here's the QR code. Would love your support. Obviously, give your feedback on there also, guys. We actually have not done an official launch of this book yet because I am just finishing the quiz this week. Once that's done, we are going to do like a whole book tour around this, so I am excited about that. And I just appreciate your kind of pre-launch support on this. So if you get access to this and you're interested in my book, please chime in and always reach out. Like, I've got multiple ways you guys can reach out to me on my contacts. If you'd like to have me come out, you run a company, or you're looking for someone to uplift or motivate your group, I do public speaking, and I do really unique group clearings to create power, this velocity aspect we talked about inside of organizations. And there is a very clear process of getting clear with your past, using language to project a new future, and then using powerful language to attract the desired outcome and result. But without some of those steps, you can never get to the end. And a lot of companies that are struggling, a lot of companies that are looking to go to the next step and can't quite make it, are just missing these basic steps. And so I would love to help. Feel free to reach out, get on my calendar. And I hope that you find this helpful. I hope that the news, the market advice, and the things we went over were helpful. If you have any feedback, feel free to chime in on my socials. I take all of the feedback that you guys provide as topics that I may consider for my next podcast. And and anyway, obviously I do this for free. Helping me out with my book is a huge thank you to me. But if you'd like to just give me a thumbs up on any of my socials, or chime in and chat, give me your feedback on anything you'd like to see different, that makes a huge difference just to take the time to do it. So thanks for tuning in. This wraps up our Market Pulse podcast for today, and we will catch you same time, same place next week. So we'll see you then. Thank you.